Welcome to Killer Influence, Weapons of Social Seduction, the Influence and Charisma webinar. My name is David Snyder, and today we're going to be covering some of the most powerful secrets of human influence that are also the simplest. Now, today's webinar is, once again, it's a little bit of a different format than a lot of people are used to, in that it's really kind of like, what do you want to learn today? We're going to teach you as much as we can. We're going to talk about the offer or the great opportunities we have for training and information coming up this year. And then after we're done presenting that, we're going to come back and we're going to actually teach you more stuff. We're going to stay on and we're going to actually take questions and we're going to maybe troubleshoot some stuff. I can't promise to get to everybody's question. I can't promise to answer every single thing. But my commitment to you in the time that we have together is that I will take, if this is the scope of everything there is to learn, we have time for about this, even on an extended webinar, we have time for about this. And so my commitment to you is I will take you as far as I can in the time that we have, and I will point you in the direction of where to go for more. Is that fair? Just type in the chat if you think that's a good exchange. And you know what? Because of the trouble that we had on the webinar, I may just throw in a couple extra bonuses at the end of the webinar just for you guys. Would that be okay? Okay, cool. Why is somebody typing weird things in my chat? But that's okay. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of, no, that doesn't matter right now. I'm going to go ahead and get back to this screen here. Okay, so going back to this, once again, who is Dr. David Snyder? Why should I care? First and foremost, I have a doctorate in Oriental Medicine. I have a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. I have a clinic in Solana Beach where I've been running since 2005, where my specialty and my focus is treating physiological illness that is the result of repressed emotion. And so while some people come in and some people get certified in NLP or hypnotherapy and they treat weight loss or they treat nail biting or they treat smoke cessation, most of what I do is based around traumatic issues or chronic or terminal illness. So we spend a lot of time dealing with emotionally based physiological illness. It's a very exciting, very powerful experience, and the amount of change that we've been able to get with our clients has been nothing short of miraculous. And I spend a lot of time teaching and training other people to do that level of work as well. I may have to start, hold on a second while I mute everybody. Okay, cool. So in addition to the doctorate in Oriental Medicine, I'm a licensed acupuncturist here in the state of California. This year, in the last 3 years, I was named in the top 2 NLP trainers by globalgurus.org for the last 2 years, or 3 years. This year, we were moved to the #1 slot, and I've authored over 15 different products and various forms of human influence, everything from conversational hypnosis to hypnotherapy to advanced sales and marketing trainings to even nonverbal influence is a course that we actually teach and how to read body language and things of that nature. This year, our Killer Influence, our flagship approach to covert hypnosis or covert human influence, was named the #1 best program in the world of NLP by my peers and by globalgurus.com or .org. And as you can see, As you can see here, here's a little screenshot of Global Gurus page, and you see that Killer Influence is ranked #1, so you're in a good place. I'm also hold a 10th degree black belt in the martial arts, specifically in Okinawan karate. I have a 4th degree black belt in Shaolin Kung Tao. I have a 2nd degree black belt in Kosho Kempo, and a 1st degree black belt in small circle. I hold combat or certified instructor trainings in combat sistema, cinco mano eskrima, and modern arnis. And I didn't even bother to list my energy healing credentials because I have more of those than McDonald's sells hamburgers. But people might often ask, if they see me go through this laundry list, they say, well, what the heck does all this have to do with hypnotic language or human influence? And the secret and the truth is they all have one thing in common, and that word is pattern recognition. Pattern recognition. Human beings do everything. Human beings do involves some form of a pattern, some form of understanding. And if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, you can realize that everything human beings do follows a formula. It follows a process. And once you understand those patterns, once you know how to listen for them, once you know how to see them, how to behave in them, how humans beings use these patterns to think, working and helping other human beings to understand and connect and trust one another becomes a very, very simple process. Now I know that's a big statement, but if you bear with me throughout the course of this webinar, I'm going to show you some very, very powerful, very, very easy things to do. In fact, when I teach them to you, you're probably not going to believe them. You're going to be saying that's too simple, that's too obvious, it can't be that easy. My challenge to you is, you don't have to believe anything I say. Just go out and do it and watch what happens. Just go out and do it and watch what happens. So, but like I said before, and if you stayed till the end, we're going to give you some opportunities. We're going to show you where to go next. Like I said, I'm going to take you as far as I can, and then once we get to the end of the webinar, I'm going to point you in a direction of where to take the next step if that's something you want to do. And for me, my biggest question for you is, what do you want to learn about today? I have a set of techniques and processes that I'm going to share with you that are consistent, that are proven, that work in every single context, but I don't know yet how to direct that for you. I want to know, what do you want to learn today? What is the biggest question? If you came away with nothing else from this webinar but the answer to this one question, what would that question be? What would that question be? Go ahead and type that in the chat while I change back to my regular screen view, and we'll go from there. How do I stop sharing screen? Oh, nope. Hold on a second. Pause screen. Nope, stop screen share. There we go. Okay. So let me see what we got here. I'm going to go ahead and read some of these. State control, that can feel awesomely good all the time. Hit record. I think my record is actually going. I think I have mine set to start recording automatically. So, can I use this stuff to trade the markets or potty train my son? Yes, you can. Eliminating hesitation and trusting myself. Yes, you can do that. How to elicit strong emotions for anchoring and then influence. How to influence, convert friend to lover. How to influence that isn't obvious. What techniques are more powerful than pacing and leading? Ooh, that's a good question. Eliminating procrastination, controlling your state. Okay, I think what we're going to start talking about is controlling state. And to me, guys, state control is in fact the most powerful hypnotic influence tool that exists. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me show you a diagram, and this will help to explain. See, in the CPI system and the killer influence system that we teach, both the CPI system and the killer influence system start at the same place. They start understanding what we call the Universal Persuasion Protocol. Thank you, guys. All right, we start with the Universal Persuasion Protocol. So let me share that with you. I'm going to go through, I don't have time in this webinar to go through every single stage and every single technique in that Universal Persuasion Protocol. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the CPI model. I'll explain how that works with killer influence, how it works with the CPI system, and then I'm going to show you how it relates to the idea of why we consider it such a superpower. In fact, we have some people on the webinar today who have actually taken what I've taught them and gone to whole new levels in their career utilizing the idea of state control. So let's talk about that real quick. Okay, let me go back and find my next PowerPoint. Okay. I'm not going to bother doing slideshow presentation because it's just easier for me to move back and forth. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Hold on a second. Let me enlarge this. Can you see the screen okay? Hold on a second. Where's my chat? Can you see the screen? Okay. What you're seeing here is what we call the Universal Persuasion Protocol. Starting at the very top, you have state control, rapport, language patterns, state management, process, criteria, and values. This is a 6-stage process that once you understand it will allow you to exert influence anytime, anywhere, for any reason. But you have to follow the sequence, and the sequence is control your state. Write this down, guys. Control your state, get rapport, use your language, use those 3 to manage the state of your subject or your target. Jump into any process that they're using, to make the decision you want them to make, and emotionally link it to their criteria and values. Emotional criteria and values are the single most powerful driving force in human beings outside of their primal drives, their desire for food or shelter or whatever. In fact, they're very, very intimately linked with those primal drives. So anytime you tap people in their emotional criteria and values, hold on a second, let me see if I can annotate this. Anytime you can link to somebody's criteria and values, they will tend to do what you want them to do by default, because simply following those innate drives inspires them or motivates them to take the actions you want them to take. But before you enter any persuasion interaction, there's one thing that all good persuaders understand, is you have to know what it is you want. You have to know your outcome. You have to know when you're getting what you're getting. You have to have benchmarks. Now, if you think of persuasion, hold on a second, let me pause this. If you think of persuasion as a sea, this is what I tell my CPI students. If you think of persuasion like a very turbulent, stormy sea, and the winds are blowing you one way, and the waves are blowing you another way. But if off in the distance you can see a lighthouse, and as long as, no matter where the winds take you or the currents move you or the waves throw you, as long as you can see that lighthouse, you can course correct and get back to where you want to be. That's what knowing your outcome is for. Because if you don't know where you want to go, you can get swept away in the ocean of influence, the ocean of interaction between human beings, and be taken far, far away from your outcome. But if you know what that outcome is, you can always find your way back. Because conversations, if you've ever been in a conversation with another human being, you know that conversations take very interesting directions organically. Do they not? Yes or yes? Okay. How do you? Yes, very much. Okay. So when we talk about state control, I said state control in our world is the ability to enter or exit any psycho-emotional state at will at any time. Now there's two ways that you control your emotional state. The first one is through your body. The second one is through your willpower or your ability to think. Now in our culture, we've been brainwashed into thinking that we can dominate our emotional state through our mind. That is theoretically correct. It's theoretically correct. Functionally, though, it's the opposite. Functionally, unless you are a master adept yogi, a highly trained special forces operative, an Olympic level athlete, a highly trained first responder, if you're not in one of those levels, in most cases, your physiology is going to dominate your psychology. Your physiology is going to overwrite your mental state, and it will force your neurology, the way you hear and smell and perceive the world, to change. And it'll change spontaneously. And it doesn't matter how much willpower you have. If you're not trained to deal with highly fluid emotional states, the environment will overwhelm you. Now, the fastest way to control your emotional state is through your posture and your breathing. Your posture and your breathing. Now, we're going to play with that right now. I want everybody to stand up. Now, because I'm on Zoom, I can see your butts, so I know who's not. Right? And I want to. And by the way, I can switch to gallery view, so if I see anybody who doesn't have their camera on, I'm going to be very put out. Turn your cameras on so I can see you. It's Brady Bunch time, guys. Right? Cool. All right. So, first thing I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Let that breath out with a sigh. Deeper and deeper with every breath and every beat of your heart. I just want you to relax and let go. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to fly back on the wings of time to a time in your life when you felt the most amazing, thrilling, fulfilling, satisfying pleasure ever. Now, I'm not the pleasure police. I don't care what you were doing, who you were with, what substances were involved, how many laws you broke, how many state lines you crossed. I don't care. All I care about is that when you see that, when you remember that amazing event, when you see what you see and you hear what you hear and you smell and you taste what you smell and you taste, there is an amazing, awesome feeling that you get, and there's a place in your body where those feelings start, where they grow and where they spread from. I want you to go ahead and point to where you feel that. Notice there's a color connected to those feelings. Whatever that color is for you, imagine a big ball of that energy floating above your head. Notice how the feelings in your body shift and change as with every breath you take and every beat of your heart, that ball of energy begins to grow, begins to expand, begins to fill the entire room from floor to ceiling, from wall to wall, and all points in between. Notice how it wraps itself around you like an amazing blanket of pleasure. A cocoon, a shield, a suit of armor, insulating you, protecting you from all less than pleasurable experiences, real or imagined, while at the same time flooding your mind, flooding your body, flooding your spirit with everything it most wants, everything it most needs in an infinite, ever-expanding, and unlimited supply. And when you know you've got that, I want you to breathe that amazing pleasure color through your entire being. Let it fill you up like water fills up a bottle, like fluid fills up a test tube, like hot air or helium fills up a balloon. Anchor it in so fully, so completely, no force in the universe can turn it off or take it away, not even you. And when you know you've got that, test it. Try to turn it off. Try to take it away and notice what happens instead. What do you guys notice? Oh, Zoom's only allowing, oh man, there's going to be some very upset people. Because Zoom only allows 100 listeners. Oh well. We'll make sure they get the replay. Type in the chat room, what did you notice when you tried to turn off that good feeling? Just type it in there. Can't turn it off? Oh shit, you mean you're stuck feeling good now? Oh darn it. Okay, that's the first piece. That's the first piece. So now that we got good feelings in our body, now that was a really quick and easy way to generate a state that people are going to want to be around. But we did it using our mind and our body together. Now what we're going to do is I want you to stand up straight once again. I want you to remember a time in your life when you saw something you wanted, I mean really, really wanted, and you decided you were going to get it no matter what, and you made a plan, and you put that plan into operation, and whatever obstacles came up, you went over, around, through it, no matter what, you just went for it, and you got it. You nailed it. Home run, touchdown, big win. I want you to remember that moment of victory, that moment when you realized you got it. And I want you to stand exactly the way you're standing. I want you to breathe exactly the way you were breathing in that moment. And when you've got that, yes, I want you to stand that way, and I want you to hold it without changing anything, without changing a single thing about the way you're standing, about the way you're breathing. As an act of will, try to feel bad. Notice what happens, or in this case, doesn't happen. You can't. Very cool. Now, shake it off. All right, cool. Now we're going to do something a little bit different, but we have to do both sides of this equation so you understand exactly the principle I'm trying to get to you. Okay? I'm going to give you guys an extra bonus on state control when we're done with this, but you need this part first. So first and foremost, I want you to close your eyes. Remember a time in your life when you saw something you wanted, and you decided on a lust factor of 0 to 10, it was like a 27. And you made a plan, you went for it, and for whatever reason, at that last moment, something happened and it didn't manifest. You didn't get it. You lost. I want you to remember that moment when you realized it wasn't going to happen. And I want you to stand the way you were standing in that moment. I want you to breathe the way you were breathing in that moment. Let those feelings come back. And when you know you've got it, we're not going to stay here very long, but when you know you've got that, without changing your posture, without changing your breathing, as an act of will, try to feel good. And notice what happens or doesn't happen. We're only going to stay here for a few seconds. And then what I want you to do is I want you to summon up your willpower. I want you to hold on to that negative feeling. As you hold on to that negative feeling with just your willpower, I want you to shift your body back to that winning posture and notice what happens. And then when you've realized what happens, just stop trying to hold on to that that negative feeling, that all the good feelings come flooding back, and then type in the chat, or I can pick on selected people, but just type in the chat, what did you notice? What happened or what didn't happen? You feel great again? Could you hold on to the negative state when your body went back? Bad feelings went away? Posture triumphs will? Yes. That's probably the best one ever. This is the most important thing that I can teach you today. I'm going to teach you a lot of other stuff. And it seems at first it seems like a parlor trick, but there's a much deeper principle going on here. Your body has emotions and states wired into it. And every time you change the posture and breathing, your feelings change automatically. Amy Cuddy did some great research on this. Some of you are familiar with her work. How many of you have heard of power poses? Okay, excellent. Now, what you're learning, actually, what I'm teaching you right now is actually more advanced than what Amy's research did. I've been teaching this since 2005. This is way before the research came out. But she did the actual scientific research. We did the field work where we went out into the world and we actually applied this stuff to see what would happen. So we've known for a long time that physiology is more powerful than your willpower in the vast majority of cases. So if you're a normal human being like me, who has spent a lot of years doing yoga or special forces training, or spend my 20 years in a cave or on a mountaintop somewhere, in every single incident, your body posture and your breathing are going to dictate your emotional state. Now, why is that important? Because how many of you noticed that when you were in that negative state, or actually, we'll just go, when you were in that positive state and you tried to feel bad, what did your body want to do? What did your body? I want to see. If you've had this training before, don't answer. Let the people. This is your first time. Let them answer. Okay. It didn't want to change. Deep breath. How many of you noticed when you're in that positive state, whatever, or positive physiology, whatever it was, and you tried to feel bad, your body wanted to change. Your body wanted to move a little bit. You had to actually force it to keep it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. So this is why this is so important. Your body has a finite amount of willpower, and it's based on two elements. It's based on the amount of blood sugar in your system and the amount of sleep that you've had. And you go through that fuel more when you have to control and manage intense emotional states. Okay? The inverse of that is this. It takes a minimum amount of willpower to remember to keep your posture straight. You just have to have the situational awareness to do it. So if you get overwhelmed by the environment or by the situation that you're in, your conscious mind is going to check out. You are going to lose the ability to access your higher faculties. But if you understand physiology and you realize that you come to the realization that you're in a less than resourceful state, all you have to do to break that downward spiral is change your posture and change your breathing and hold it for as little as 2 minutes. Yes, Alan, that's why you feel exhausted after an argument. It zaps your blood sugar. Okay? All you have to do is change your posture, change your breathing, and within 2 minutes or less, 2 minutes is right around the window. Within 2 minutes, that state will change. As it starts to change, you will regain access to your ability to control your state. So unless somebody physically ties you up, you always have the ability to change your posture and change your breathing. And as long as you can do that, you can recover from any emotional attack. And that can be, the environment, it can be an argument, it can be somebody just coming out of nowhere and surprising you. You have that ability to recover. Okay, so when we teach state control, and we teach it in CPI, and we teach it in Killer Influence. CPI and Killer Influence both start from the same place. This idea of state control, rapport, specific language patterns, jumping into a person's process, linking it to their emotional hot buttons, but then they go in very different directions. Your CPI systems, which we'll talk about at the end of the webinar, the CPI systems goes off into the realm of language. It gets deeper and deeper and deeper into linguistic techniques. So if what you do is very linguistically dependent, then the advanced courses in CPI will help to flesh out all of those things. Killer Influence goes into what we call the realm of hypnotic operators. Hypnotic operators may or may not be verbal or linguistically based. So you'll start with that same linguistics foundation, and then you'll learn about how to control your state even more fully, how to transfer that state to other people, how to use that connection that you build to kind of get a snapshot of what's going on with them emotionally and project emotions to them. You're going to learn how to manage the spatial relationships around people that allow you, just by standing in a certain position relative to their spine, their neurology will process you differently. I'll give you a real quick one. If somebody's right-handed and you stand on their right side, they'll tend to regard you more favorably than if you stand on their left side. If you stand just below eye level to somebody, they will actually feel safer around you than if you're at eye level or taller. So there's a lot of tactical things that you can do to manage the spatial relationships around you that bypass the critical faculties of the person that you're in. And so if you're in any kind of negotiation or counseling, this idea of proxemics, of managing or modulating the spatial relationships, is critical. Because if I come in below eye level and I'm talking to you and you're actually at a higher position to me, you no longer view me as a threat, because it gives you the dominant or power position, which means your defenses go down. And as I continue to talk to you, you start to feel more comfortable, and as you're looking at me, that comfort gets linked to me. And as I start to talk more and more and more about the things that are important to you, you start to have emotional feelings, and you start to link those things to me. And then what I can do, as I continue to speak, is I can just slowly stand up or raise my eye level. And all of a sudden now I've changed the dynamic to now you view me as the authority in your world and you trust me. And that's all nonverbal. So the Killer Influence is that study. It's the study of social hypnotic operators, proxemic hypnotic operators, where to sit or stand at a negotiation table that gives you the greatest level of authority. So they start in the same place, they go different directions. And they all start with this idea that your physiology controls your psychology. Now, here's the thing you need to understand about physiology. There's no top level to this. Okay, you have this thing in your body called mirror neurons. How many people have heard of mirror neurons? Go ahead and, okay, cool. So if you've heard of mirror neurons, then you understand that anything you see me do, anything I say, any intention that I have, your mirror neurons are already picking it up and reflecting it like a mirror reflects information, right? The book that you might want to reference for that is called Mirroring People. Mirroring People. It's by Marco Iacoboni. You have a proprioceptive nervous system that monitors spatial relationships. So depending on where I am in relation to you, it'll change how you think about me. It's going somewhere with this. Oh, so yeah. So your neurology is basically whatever I'm presenting to you, your neurology is literally processing it as if you're doing it. So think about this. If that's true, and we know that's true based on the neuroscience, if I can link my neurology with your, even if I can't, but if I'm in an interaction with you where I have your attention and I start to generate body feelings in myself, think about this for a minute. If I start to generate body feelings in myself, what does your neurology start to do? Go ahead and type that in the chat. What does your neurology start to do? It picks up. It does the same thing. So if I'm talking to you and I'm generating feelings of comfort, of trust, of sincerity, of attractiveness, as I'm talking to you, and I'm doing it congruently from the physiology up, not the neocortex down, what is your neurology going to start to do? You're right. Exactly. Now, here's where this gets cool. When I first learned about this, I was like, oh, that's really interesting, but how do I use it? How many people have ever heard of a show called Lie to Me? Or Dr. Paul Ekman? Or both? Very cool. Yeah, you guys are getting this. Excellent. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. Dr. Ekman, in his book, where is it at? It's back here somewhere. In his book called Emotions Revealed, Dr. Ekman talks about a behavior he named the emotional refractory period. Now, the emotional refractory period can also is analogous to what some people call the reticular activating system in the brain. It doesn't really help us. It doesn't tell us what it does. Here's what it does. The emotional refractory period is a perceptual change. In other words, you have filters to your neurology. You have a pecking order of what you pay attention to first, second, third, or fourth in the universe around you. You follow me so far? I'm going to give you some examples in a minute. When you go through a physiological or emotional state change, that order of what you pay attention to changes. So think about it this way. If you're in a room, well, here, let me give you some examples. How many of you, I'm going to go back to Brady Bunch view. That's what I call gallery view, by the way. I call this the Brady Bunch view because every time I watch it, I imagine here's a story of a man named Brady, right? Anyway, so think about this for a minute. How many of you have ever been in an argument? Just raise your hands. I can see you if you've got your, all right? So maybe you've been in an argument with a man or a woman or whatever. He said, she said, you're going back and forth, whatever it is. And then you finally resolve the argument. And then for the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, even up to an hour later, anything you say pisses him off again. Has that ever happened? Yeah, the rest of you are lying, right? No. Okay. Welcome to the wonderful world of the emotional refractory period. You see, every time you go through an emotional state change, that becomes the new normal. For a brief time, it becomes the new normal in your nervous system. And that refractory mechanism wants to keep you normal. And so what it does, without your conscious permission, without your conscious consent, it tweaks what you pay attention to first. So if you're in a good mood and you walk into a room where a fight's just happened, you know, maybe there's like, let me go back. Let me just diagram this for you. This will probably make it, sometimes this makes it easier, sometimes it doesn't. Let me use the whiteboard for this. So let's say, for example, that you walk into a room. Can you all see my screen okay? Let me see if I can put my chat up so I can see you guys. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So you walk into a room. Get that out of the way. And there are 10 units of information in that room. 8 of them are positive. 2 of them are negative. If I come into that room in a positive mood, now remember, there's only 10 units of information in this room. There's only 10. 8 are positive, 8 and 2 are negative. If I come into that room in a positive state, what do you think I'm going to pay attention to first? Go ahead and type it in the chat. I'll wait. Exactly. If I come into that room, same information, same ratio. If I come into that room in a negative state, what am I going to pay attention to? It's almost intuitive, isn't it? Right. What's the only thing that changed? My state. The information in the room hasn't changed. But the priority, let me put this back. But the priority that my neurology gives it, the order of what I pay attention to first, the thing that actually I gravitate to the most is whatever's in harmony with the state I'm in. So if you think about it, if you can get control of your state, and then you can synchronize, connect with another person's neurology, that you have rapport. And by the way, rapport can't not happen. If we have time, maybe I'll show you a quick video, but we're kind of, again, we got a late start, so I apologize. But are you guys with me so far? You guys with me so far? Cool. All right. So if I can connect with another human being, and I know, and in such a way that I know I've got the connection, and there's a feeling that that a person gets when they've got kinesthetic rapport. The people at heartmath.org have done a huge amount of research on this connection process. So if you go to heartmath.org, they have a free ebook that you can download. It's a free ebook. Download the ebook, go right to chapter 6, cut it out, and just read it. It's all about how the hearts synchronize between two people, or sometimes one person's brain synchronizes with another person's heart. It's all mediated by the emotional energy, or the electromagnetic energy that's put out by the heart. And that heart wave, as they call it, has emotional energy embedded within it, emotional information embedded within it that other people pick up on. So if I connect with somebody, and that's what the rapport level in Killer Influence and CPI is we're going to teach you exactly the mechanics of how to do this. And it's not like NLP. We don't do it the way NLP does. We do it in a very, very easy, natural way that creates a very powerful organic connection between people. And we teach you how to sense when you've got it, and then we teach you how to build on it. So what happens is you've got control of your state. You've linked with another human being in a way that you know that their neurology is mirroring whatever you're doing. You change your emotional state, then their state changes too. Yes or yes? But here's the thing, they don't know it. See, they don't feel like you did anything to them, because their state changes from the inside out. It's almost like, you know how sometimes you have an upgrade to your operating system, and rather than going in and having to delete all of your apps, it just loads itself around the apps. You guys know what I'm talking about? You ever had that happen? Where your software, you don't have to go in and delete all the things you did, it just uploads around it. That's kind of what happens with your neurology. When that information reaches your system and your state starts to change from the inside out, those perceptual filters that we just talked about, they flip automatically. So that the person you're talking to is automatically predisposed to listening to you in the way that's in harmony with the states you're both in. And so literally, if you get this piece right, you can say all the wrong things and still have a high chance of getting people to go along with you. They will give you the benefit of the doubt. And then we just make it stronger. Okay, there's no 100% of anything in persuasion. We all know this. Anybody who's ever taken persuasion class knows there's been times when this shit worked. Even in the martial arts, there's no 100% techniques. But we can't spend time focusing on the exceptions to the rule. We have to focus on what is true most of the time. If you had a technique that worked exactly the way it's supposed to, 9 out of every 10 times you used it, would you use it? What if you could take that 9 out of 10 times and make it percentage by percentage closer and closer to 10? Because that's where you're going. But the secret starts with learning how to control your own emotional state. The easiest way to change another human being's state is to change yours first. The fastest way to change your state is not through your willpower. It's through your body. Okay? So I'm going to share some things with you that I only usually share with my Killer Influence and my CPI students. These are what we call metaframes. These are body language or body posture configurations that generate a feeling to them in the other person and in yourself. So I'm going to give you a choice. We don't have time for all of them, but I'm going to give you the choice. You can learn how to be a master and commander. You can learn how to be a rock star, or you can learn how to make people like and trust you and believe you're completely authentic and trustworthy. Which one would you like to play with? Go ahead and type it in the chat. Okay, I see one rock star and lots of like and trust. Very good. Excellent. So here's how it works. I may have to take my vest off to do that. Would that be okay so you can see it? Okay. Dun, 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 dun. All right. The only reason I'm doing this is so you can see what my body's doing. Okay. So let's talk about physiology and why it's important. You know, we have red Levi's. Where? PG, please. Okay. Fine. All right. I'll put this back on in a minute. But okay. So first and foremost, so look at my posture now. Okay. Now, let me give you a little bit of background first. So when we talk about people who are ethical, honest, have a lot of integrity, if you could think of body posture words that would describe them, what would they be? Go ahead and type it in the chat. Open, upright, excellent. It would be relaxed, attentive. Okay, this is what we call these organ language. So how many people are saying, well, he's an upstanding guy. He's a straight shooter. He's a stand-up guy, right? You see how we equate certain emotional or personality attributes to our physiology? It's because those postures are hardwired to those concepts. How do we describe people who are evil? Bent, twisted, crooked. Thank you, right? You could go back, don't believe me, go back to the old silent movie days and look at the caricatures of the villains. They're always bent over, they're always hunched, right? So you have these two polarities. You have, but did you know flirting has a body language? Did you know flirting has a posture? Yeah. And you can use that posture to access a state of playful flirtatiousness. So let's put it this way: you've never picked up like a Maxim magazine or a Playgirl magazine or whatever gender you're into. You've never opened up the centerfold and seen them going, right? You never do it. You never see a politician going, "How you doing?" Right? There's a huge emphasis on posture because even though we abstractly know this, organically wired into you is this understanding that posture equals attribute. So when you see people who are very charismatic, they usually have really good posture. They usually have really good posture and they take up a lot of space. Those things are going to be important in a minute. But going back to flirting. Flirting. Did you know flirting has a posture? See, all I did was change the posture, and all you guys started smiling. I didn't say anything, right? And you're separated by an internet connection, right? Upright, upstanding, crooked, twisted, naughty, right? Naughty, playful, mischievous. So if you want to control your state, change your posture. Get it? Now in CPI and Killer Influence, we have like 6 or 7 or 8 different posture files that we go through, that you have this big Batman utility belt of postures that you can practice. But for here, I don't have time, so I'm going to give you a choice. So you guys wanted to know about trust, but let's say you got to go into a meeting. Let's say you've got to go into maybe you're going out socializing, but you're a little uptight. Change your posture. Hold it for 2 minutes, and go for it, right? And as long as you remember to keep that posture, you'll stay in the state. So if we want to generate trust and sincerity, the first thing we have to understand is that we're always coming from the heart. So if you can imagine a plexiglass screen right over your heart, like a little window. And when you talk to somebody, and I'm not doing it yet, and when you talk to somebody, you talk as if you want to show them your heart. This is And I just want to show it to you. And if you want to take it more advanced, imagine a little spotlight beaming that out to people. And you just paint them with it. So this is open heart trust trigger. So we're here, and now I'm back to normal. Now I don't know how well you can feel that through the internet connection. There it is. I can have my hands clasped. I can do my Jesus pose. But the idea is when I talk to you, I'm talking to you from my heart. I'm showing my heart to you. Now, it's not this. That's why I'm going to do this from a posture. It's not this. Ladies, it's not showing the world what God gave you. It's not that. Okay? It's not rolling back the shoulders like a military. I did a training for about 35 personal injury attorneys back in, I think it was back in 2016, 2017. And I had a hell of a time getting them to do this because they all thought they were in the military. Right? That's different. I want to show you my heart. See how it just opens that chest a little bit? And that's all it is. It's just opening and rolling it forward. It's not, it has nothing, the shoulders are completely relaxed. So what I want you to stand up. I want you to go ahead and stand up. And I want you to just stand normal. And then I want you to just imagine there's this plexiglass screen here. And you just want to show somebody your heart. Just say, you know, and notice how you start to feel. And then go back to standing normal. Yeah. And now show them your heart. Can you feel it? If you can feel it, tell me what you feel in the chat. Just go ahead. Strangely open. Yeah. Yeah. This is the worst you'll ever be at it, by the way. This is really powerful stuff. If all you did was stand like that for 10, 20 minutes a day, 2 or 3 times a day, you'd have a very different life. You'd move through the world in a very different place. This signals openness, authenticity, trust, sincerity. And when you come from this place, people just trust you. They just feel like they have this connection. And they don't know why. And then honestly, most of the time, they don't really care. Because there's people, especially now with this whole COVID crap going on, and everybody being in such isolated places, when you can connect, even through a video connection like this, you can feel when I go into this, people are starving for this level of connection. And when you move through the world, giving people that, just by making eye contact and meeting you, well, they'll move heaven and earth to get it again and again and again, because most of us are dramatically starved for that kind of connection. And as you move through the world, making everyone around you feel ridiculously good, they're going to do stuff for you. They're going to give you stuff. You understand? And you haven't even had to say anything yet. That's where we start. You understand? That's where we start. That's one. That's one. We have ones for authority and dominance, which in a gentle way. We have ones that are more like rock stars, where you go in and everybody flocks to you like moths to a flame and things like that. We don't have time for that here. But I wanted to talk to you about state control from a body perspective, because this is the one that cooks the rice. This is the one that gets the vast majority of everything else done. Are there any of my students in the chats or here who have used this stuff out in the field that want to speak to that or talk about it for a little bit? Or are there any questions on it? Since we have a pretty good interface, I can go ahead and take a few questions before we move on. Is this useful? It works. Seth says it works. Alessia says yes, yes, yes. Neil Calmetto, I know Neil. Yes, cool. Excellent. All right. Excellent. Super useful. It does really work. Okay, excellent. So we're all kind of on the same page, right? It is great for presenting. Absolutely, absolutely. This is one, if you make your living through any form of public speaking, not just coaching or consulting, but getting up on a stage and talking to hundreds of people, kind of like I'm doing now, right? This is an amazingly powerful tool to control your state, to put you in the right frame, to be the mentor, the guide, the teacher, the trusted advisor. And when you do that, regardless of whether you're actually delivering your service or encouraging people to take the next step by getting a product or a live event or whatever, you're going to come across as having their best interests at heart. You won't come across as someone who's trying to get them to buy something. You understand the difference? We call that the difference between selling psychology and offer psychology. When we present to people, our job isn't to sell them something. Our job is to find out authentically what they want and authentically determine if what we have will give you what you want, and then find a way to make sure that they recognize that fit. And if they want it, great. If they don't, well, that's okay too, but we've given them the offer. But when you've properly connected people to the things that emotionally satisfy and fulfill them, they will ask you to buy. They will ask you for the date. They will ask to become your client. And 80–90% of the objections that you're going to deal with are going to go right out the window, completely out the window, okay? Because more often than not, the objections you get are based on the fact that you weren't presenting to what's emotionally driving them for that product or service. So it actually quite powerfully simplifies it simplifies the presentation process. And if you're coming from that sincere place and you can sincerely fulfill that and you show that to them, and that's what we'll cover next, if that's what you guys want to do. We'll talk about emotional bonding if you want, or we can go into hypnotic language. We don't have time for both. So I'll let you guys decide. Where do you want to go? A lot of you are asking about state control, so I wanted to give you that. We also have a whole module on using your mind to control your state. We don't have a lot of time to do that on this webinar, but for those of you who come to Killer Influence, you guys want to bond? All right, now here's the deal. I'm going to do this like a class. In other words, I'm going to teach you the process, and then I'm going to break you up into groups, and you're going to practice on each other. Will that be okay? All right. Unless you guys just want me to sit here and lecture. It's your class. You tell me. You guys, one person says, "I just want to lecture." Okay. All right. Then I'll just show you how to do it. Okay. So it's 5:16 now. When did we actually get on Zoom? How long ago did we get on Zoom? Well, oh shit. I'm sorry, guys. You guys in the UK, God love you. Thank you for hanging out with us. So here's what I'm going to do. I told you I had an offer for you, right? I had a big package I put together. If you guys would give me 15 minutes or so, I'd like to talk to you about that, and then I'll come back and I'll teach you the criteria and values process, the emotional bonding process. And for those of you who need to go to bed or whatever, then you can go to bed or whatever. Is that okay? Yes or yes? Type it in the chat. I need to know. Okay, cool. So thank you for your patience. I do apologize for the mishaps with the platforms and stuff like that. But I do appreciate y'all jumping on. So my promise is, as soon as we're done with the offer, the package we've got, I'm going to circle back. We're going to keep teaching. So we'll go on for a little while longer, and hopefully you guys will feel like you got what you needed from this webinar. Okay? Is that okay? Okay, cool. We can jump to this. I've got some really cool stuff for you guys. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. So here's what we've got going on. Now, for those of you, before I share my screen, let me just go ahead and say, for those of you who this is your first time, one of the things that I get asked a lot about in my trainings is, because if you've ever been to NLP Power, you've been to our website, you notice we have a huge amount of product in our trainings, and a lot of times it can be a little bit confusing because some people come into training, they want to know about how to be a therapist. Some want to know how to improve their love life. Some want to just increase their ability to manage people and improve their sales. And they're often sometimes a little bit confused. So they'll come up to me at a training and go, "David, I noticed that the price points on your website for your products and your live events are very, very similar. And I'm kind of torn. I'm not sure if I should take this training or buy that video course." And without hesitation, without missing a beat, I tell them right up front, take the live event. Because at the live event, just like we're doing now, I can interact with you, I can observe you, I can give you feedback, I can install things directly for you. and you can work with other people and you can kind of connect and bond. So if you have to choose between coming to a live event or a video product, whenever possible, come to the live event first. Now, because of the whole pandemic thing, we're still doing live events, but we're doing them virtually. And so for every live event ticket that we offer, we haven't canceled any classes for 2020. We've just made them virtual. And when the pandemic is over, for every virtual class you attend, you're going to get a VIP ticket to attend the same class live and in person. So I'm saying that ahead of time so you understand that you're not stuck. Okay. So that being said, let me just go ahead and jump into this. Are you ready to take your skills even further? Well, of course you are. I just asked you that. So coming up in July 15th through the 18th, or actually, we'll talk about that in a minute. We're offering our Killer Influence Secrets of Covert Hypnosis home study course. I believe this is the 2016 version. I could be wrong. It's valued at $1,297. Now, I talked a little bit about this particular program at the beginning of the webinar, where I kind of compared it between CPI and Killer Influence. And Killer Influence takes the same Universal Persuasion Protocol that we've talked about, takes you through the rapport, the state control drills, the rapport drills, the hypnotic language patterns, linking that to manage people's states, jumping into their process and targeting and emotionally bonding to their criteria and values. Teaches you that basic foundation. It's going to teach you embedded commands. It's going to teach you all kinds of other linguistic techniques that are very powerful and very useful. It'll take a little bit more finesse. And then it's going to take you into the realm of hypnotic operators. These are things, like I said before, like proxemic hypnotic operators, like how you can manage the spatial relationships between you and other people to influence them in a very direct way without ever being caught. Just by just by where you sit or stand at a meeting table can dramatically influence how much authority people perceive you as having. How you stand in terms of your posture, like you've learned with the open heart trust trigger, can express more trust and authority and sincerity. You're going to get a very, very thorough training in exactly how to do that. You're going to learn how to control your state at will. You're going to learn the 7 most powerful hypnotic language patterns that exist. Patterns that allow you to instantly make anything you want, cause anything you want. Patterns that allow you to make anything you want mean anything you want. Patterns that force people's minds to pay attention to you in ways that they can't resist. You're going to learn how to make people's internal pictures be exactly what you want them to be with very, very little variation. And those are just 4 of the patterns that you'll be learning in the Killer Influence program. We're going to teach you also about social hypnotic operators. These are elements in the world like scarcity and reciprocity that culture has programmed into you to make you behave in a certain way. And if you understand those patterns of installation and behavior, you can use them to get people to want to do what you want them to do and feel good about it. There's also a program, a module in there on face reading and cold reading. Specifically cold reading in this particular version, where you can learn how to actually gain tremendous influence over another human being by learning how to spot read their body language, their dress, subtle cues about that make inferences that allow you to tell people about themselves, much the way a psychic tells you about yourself. And what happens is when you do that, people start to give you tremendous, tremendous authority in their world, and they just start to just become hyper suggestible to you. There's also one module there we call Dirty Rotten Tricks, which is really more of the gray area types of attraction and influence tactics that are very, very powerful, but they take a little bit of setup and they have the potential to be misused. So if you do nothing else but learn those techniques for the sake of protecting yourself against them, it'll be well worth your time. The total package is, I think it's like 17 videos, and it's a total value of $1,297. We're also going to throw in our Speed Attraction, Rapid Attraction Secrets home study course. This takes our CPI system and Killer Influence materials, and it focuses it directly into the fields of attraction, dating, and romance. In this, you'll learn the 7 stages of mating. Not when I say mating, I don't mean sex. I mean the body language phases that people go through that let you know where you're at in the attraction process. Are you right at the very beginning where you're approaching? Is she attracted? Is she actually attracted to you? And there are actually 7 discrete body language phases that a person goes through from stranger to intimacy. And through 5 of the 7 steps, the woman's leading the dance. The man only has to pay attention to 2 steps, and if he does those 2 things, more often than not, she will go home with him or become more intimate with him very, very rapidly. If you don't understand these, or as a man you miss those cues, then you actually go backwards down the attraction scale and you have to start from scratch. So you can, and once you understand it, you can look at another couple and speed read exactly what stage of the process they're in. They're going to show you about attitudes, frames, how to read people. This is how to approach a venue, how to case a venue, how to walk up to a complete stranger and do the 3 magic questions process, which allows you to instantly create powerful, deep-level connections. 3 magic questions is actually a process that was originally designed for ladies to attract men. I modified it a little bit so that men could use it as equally as well with women. And then one of my students out there in the world, Chris Stombell, actually was the first to modify it for use in the legal profession. And now we're using it everywhere. So 3 magic questions is a 3-stage protocol that allows you to strike up a conversation anywhere, anytime, for any reason, and become the most fascinating conversationalist in the room. People will think you're the most fascinating person they've ever talked to, and you don't have to say practically anything except what came out of their mouth. If you're familiar with our echo technique, or some of the courses we've done on that plays a big part in this. You'll get a very, very deep understanding of the 3 magic questions protocol that does 2 things. It simultaneously generates attraction between 2 people, and it causes the other person to self-disclose. It causes them to give out more and more and more information that lets you figure out really, really quickly if there's someone you want to go into a deeper relationship with, or if they go on the next pile, right? So total value is $1,497. We're going to include that as part of this amazing webinar special offer. We're also going to include, because a lot of you have stuff you want to clear up, and even though this particular course is really about influencing people, one of the most important people to influence is yourself. And so a lot of people come in and they need to do self-work. So the state control will help you a lot with your state control work. But this particular video, Energy Hypnosis Speed Healing, is a crash course that we did several years ago, and it teaches one of our most powerful self-help techniques. We call it energy spinning, or psychosomatic neuromodulation. And this is a way for you to locate a body feeling connected to an emotion that you want to clear, turn it into a color, take it out of your body, spin it in a different direction, put it back in, and that stuff goes away. This is one of the most powerful healing interpersonal healing techniques we've ever come up with. We're going to put that in there as a free extra bonus, valued at $97, and you'll be able to clear up a lot of shit really, really quick. If you were to go to the website today and try to purchase that, you're looking at a total value of $2,891, but there's more to this. We're also going to include, for those of you who have a business orientation, we're going to throw in our Stealth Selling Secrets CPI extension. And what this is a deep dive into the criteria and values process that I'm going to be sharing with you after we've talked about about this package. In this package, you're going to learn about several things. You're going to learn about how to control frames, how to change frames from within. But most importantly, you're going to learn how to do a deep dive into the emotional drivers behind any prospective employer, customer, or interviewer that you are going to be interacting with. You're going to be able to find out very, very quickly what they're looking for and know exactly what to say to them in exactly the way to say it that makes them want you or your product or your service more than all the other people competing for that same process, that same opportunity. Okay. We had one particular gentleman, his name was Chris, not Chris Stombell, a different Chris, who came to this training. He was in the pharmaceutical business. And he was from the old school sales and marketing, just hit them with features and benefits, beat them over the head with objection handlers until you basically browbeat them into biting. And he fought us on this tooth and nail. And in this video, I co-taught this with my good friend James C2. In this video, you'll actually see us using the criterion value process on him to literally convince him to want this product or service. He became such an advocate of this particular process that in later trainings, when he came back for advanced training, every time it was time for us to teach criterion values, he would literally jump up like Horshack from Welcome Back, Kotter and beg to teach this section. He literally went through 3 or 4 jobs in a time when the economy was at the pits, and he got hired by 3 different companies. He had the worst outsourcing luck in a job, like sorting luck in history. He would get hired by a company, he'd be doing great. 6 weeks later, the company would downsize. He'd have the less seniority. He'd be out. He had to do that 3 times. he used this particular process every single time to get a brand new job. He became such a proponent of it that he decided to leave pharmaceutical sales and go into full-time coaching, working with children, because he realized that if the coaching business ever fell through, he could get a job like that. It's a very powerful process. It's a fun process. And when you combine it with state control and frame control, which are very, very connected to one another, you can get a huge amount of increase in your sales, in your when you get evaluated for your job interviews or your promotions. This is going to be a very, very powerful process for you. Total value $297. Presupposes you have training in CPI or killer influence. So if you go to the website today and try to buy this all, it'll be $3,188. But we're also going to throw in a very special crash course we call Anchors in Action. Anchors are literally a stimulus response mechanism that your body has for linking an internal state with a certain type of behavior or an external state. So I call this particular video State Control on Demand, because once you understand how anchors work, you can literally program a specific psycho-emotional state to a touch, a word, a gesture, a body posture, and go into that state in seconds. In this video, you're also going to learn how to spot. We don't cover it too deeply, but we do talk about it. You're going to learn how to spot other people's natural anchors. You see, people have a spatial filing cabinet around them where they look to sort good things like good decisions, best decision, bad decision. And when you ask them about certain topics or certain processes, they'll automatically look to a spatial location. And if you know where that spatial location is, you can take your contract or yourself and stand in that spot and talk to them from that spot, and they'll actually link those feelings to you automatically. It's very cool, but it starts with the fundamentals. You'll learn how to set anchors, how to collapse anchors, how to do sliding anchors, tonal anchors. Anchoring is a very, very powerful part of neurolinguistic programming. It's one of the most powerful ways that human beings learn, and you're going to learn how to use this very, very powerfully in this crash course. Also, I think my friend James Tutu is also helping me teach this one. So it's valued at $97, total value $3,285. So for those of you who are interested in a live training, coming up July 5th, let me put the dates in here for you. July 16th through the 19th, I believe it is, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, 16th through the 19th, we're doing a 4+1 day live covert killer influence covert hypnosis training. This is a value of $1,997, and for the first 35 people who register for the webinar package, you're going to get a free VIP ticket to our July 16th through the 19th event. Now, if the covert issue is still running, we'll be doing it virtually, and when we run it again in 2021, you can come to the live event absolutely free. Okay? Our commitment to you is to make sure that you can actually do this. Okay? These are certification classes, and you'll be issued a provisional certification once you've finished the virtual training. If you come to the live event, you'll get a full-blown certificate, and you'll be certified as a hypnotic operator or hypnotic specialist in covert influence. Total value for this would be, if you added it all up, would be $5,282. Let me go back to slideshow version. Oops, what happened? Oh, there we go. So just as an aside, so you're looking at first 35 people, only first, and this is only, by the way, this VIP ticket is only good for as long as I'm on the webinar. So you can still get the video courses, the Killer Influence, Secrets of Covert Hypnosis, Speed Attraction, Rapid Attraction Secrets, valued at $1,497. You can get the Energy Hypnosis Speed Healing, valued at $97. You can get the Stealth Selling Secrets, valued at $297, and the Anchors in Action video home study course. You can get all that. Total value $5,280. That's all available on the replay. However, only the first 35 people to sign up on today's webinar are going to get this free VIP ticket. Total value $5,282. It's going to be held here in San Diego, July 16th through the 19th. And so obviously there's a lot going on here. You got the Killer Influence course we talked about, Speed Attraction, valued at $1,497, Energy Hypnosis Speed Healing, valued at $97. Stealth Selling Secrets, valued at $297. That one alone, I should probably bump that up an extra grand, just because so many people make so much money once they come out of that course. Anchors in Action, valued at $97. Killer Influence 5-day live covert hypnosis certification boot camp, valued at $1,997. Total value, it's actually more than this if you do the math, but it's $5,282. However, we're not going to charge you that. In fact, we're not even going to charge you that. We're not going to charge you $2,697. For those of you who want to grab this package today, including all 5 of the trainings and the 5-day live event ticket, 1 low installment of $997 or 3 easy payments of just $399. There should be a link in your chat, hopefully. Yeah, so go ahead and let me X out of this or something so I can see what's going on here. We'll go ahead and do that. So I can see this. Is there a link in the chat? Yeah, okay. Our apologies, like I said, we weren't planning on having to do this on Zoom, so bear with us. Cool. Excellent. So while you're doing that, if you guys have questions, just type it in the chat. I'll try to answer those, and then we'll, once I've given everybody a chance to work on that. Everybody see the link? Yeah. If you have questions, you can email Stephanie directly, stephanie@nlppower.com, or you can reach out. She has our NLP Power phone number is 858-282-4663. Let me go ahead and type that in the chat. 858-282-4663. So Stephanie can help you. Is everybody still with me? I'm not seeing a lot of chats. I guess you guys are all doing your thing, so I'll take that. Oh yeah, a couple of things about our packages. For those of you, if you bought from NLP Power before and you have one of these courses, as long as the price points are of equal or lesser value, you can swap them out. We have no problem customizing the package so that you get what you need instead of getting duplicates of something you've purchased previously. We have no problem doing that. Nice thing about our VIP tickets is that they never expire. So you have that VIP ticket to use at your discretion. If it takes you 2 years to get back to one of our trainings, your seat's waiting for you when you're ready to use it. If we change the price of the event, prices usually only go up, you're immune to any price increases. If you can come to the event, even if we're full, we'll find a seat for you, right? You'll always have a place. You have that ticket until I've had people buy Armando Supremo I Want It All packages at Hypno Thoughts Live or whatever, and it's taken them 2-3 years to get back to training. They called me up and say, David, I got this package from you back in 2016, 2017, and I just haven't had a chance to use it. Can I still use it? I said, come on in, give Stephanie a call. A couple of rules about giving Stephanie a call about a live ticket. You're always welcome to come to any training that you're qualified for. In other words, there are certain courses that we have that have prerequisites to them. And so like Killer Influence is a prerequisite to most of our courses. So if you're coming into one of our advanced level courses like Vibrational Influence, NLP training, we want you to have some kind of preliminary training first. The Killer Influence really does kind of cover all of your bases. But you could also use Identity by Design. You could do CPI. Those all will fill a certain level of criteria for that as well. If and when we do offer an NLP VIP ticket, we really encourage you to have a strong background in hypnosis before going into it. We have seen time and time again that the people who do these influence techniques and the NLP stuff the best started with a foundation, a thorough grounding in hypnosis. So we want you to really have that under your belt. And our belief is we want you to be ready to hypnotize people anytime, anywhere, for any reason. Suggested beginner's book for hypnosis. You know, if you're looking at old school hypnosis, I would recommend you start with Hypnotherapy by Dave Ellman. Hypnotherapy by Dave Ellman. I'll type that in the chat for you. Oops. Hold on a second. Where'd my cursor go? Oh, it's over. Oh, it's anyway. Let me go ahead and put this back to hold on a second. I got to get out of this particular screen. Oh, darn it. I'll figure this out eventually, guys. Trust me. Oh, there's my chat. Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, Hypnotherapy by Dave Ellman. He's probably got this oops, sorry about that, Eileen. Somehow or another, I got you on privacy again. Everyone. Hypnotherapy by Dave Ellman. Okay. Now, for those of you who are excited about the Killer Influence training, there will be a special bonus day available for the first 35 people who enroll. We may let people have the ticket. I haven't decided yet, but one of the things that will happen is if you are one of the first 35 people to enroll, you will get a very special bonus day where it's literally just you and me and a small group of students, and all we're going to do is on that 5th day is we're gonna drill down. Let me go back. We're going to drill down on everything that you want to learn about. It's kind of like an Ask Me Anything day where you get all of my attention devoted to you. So we're going to have, we predict this particular training is going to have a lot of people in it, but only a small handful of people are going to get that personalized 5th day where you can drill down and, you know, we'll do hot seats, we'll troubleshoot your persuasion and influence techniques, and we'll help you kind of target them and tailor them more fully to the applications that you want. That's only a benefit for the first 35 people to enroll in this in the 5-day Killer Influence webinar VIP ticket today. So let me see what other questions you guys have. Okay, so Kath Wilbur is asking, my internet is stable, can I watch the replay? Yes, Kathy, you can. Natalia is asking, David, are those mating stages discussed before applicable for the male versus female? They're for both genders because it's a dance that both genders engage in. There are 7 discrete body language phases that couples go through. I don't care if you're you know, male to male, whether you're female to female, male to female. The gender doesn't really matter. It's understanding these 7 distinct phases and how to know what they mean. Right? And actually what I do in that particular video course is I actually walk people step by step through each of the phases, and I deconstruct it for them so people know. No, these are not all webinars. This is these are all live events. They're not live webinars. These are every single video course here, with the exception of the 5-day live covert hypnosis certification bootcamp, is an actual 3, 5, or 7-day training that I taught live and in person. So you'll see all the warts and all the bells and whistles and everything else. So, but yeah, if you've ever had a problem figuring out where you are in the process of going from stranger to intimate, the 7 stages will help you decode that entire process. And once you're aware of it, you start going out into the world, you start observing human beings in their natural habitat, you will see this everywhere. And what's interesting is not only is it useful for the original application, which was dating and relating and mating, but it's also directly transferable into business applications. So when you walk up to people and people are about to sign a deal, you will start to see many variations of these same 7 stages. Because even though it's not a biologically based, you know, 2 people coming together to create a third, it's 2 people coming together to create a product. And so you'll see a lot of these same body language positions coming out as people move closer and closer to agreement and mutual trust. And so everything that we teach, I look at human social and dating and mating interactions as the archetype for all other forms of social communication. And so we can take what people do in that dating and mating process, and we can literally map it across to legal applications, negotiation applications, interview applications, and we can extrapolate and create a universal system for ourselves that lets us know when we're getting closer to our goals and what we need to do to take that relationship, whether it's professional, whether it's financial, whether it's sensual, sexual, emotional, to the next natural progression. So and that's what I mean when I said at the beginning of the webinar, everything that we're talking about, everything that you're going to be learning is based on this concept of understanding and recognizing the patterns of human thought, behavior, and speech, and how they all relate to one another. And once you can do that, people become very, very, very understandable. I won't say it's always 100% accurate. Nothing ever is. But you're in the high 90s most of the time. And if you understand the state control concept that we covered first and foremost, you'll move through the world radiating a sense of sincerity and authenticity and good feelings that will make people want to spend time with you. They'll want to believe in you, and they'll simply follow your lead most of the time. This is before you bring out any of the all-powerful hypnotic language stuff that we're going to teach you in CPI and Killer Influence. Very, very powerful stuff. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. Any other questions before I move on? I want to start teaching again. You're welcome, Natalia. What are some reasons why a person might get ghosted? Quite a lot. There can be a lot of reasons why you get ghosted. One of the problems is that text communication is a really, really, really limited form of human interaction. Because write this down for those of you. I'm going to put this in the chat, but I want you to go ahead and write this down. 7, 38, 55. 7, 38, 55. These are some of the most important numbers you will ever learn when it comes to persuading and influencing. Let me stop. I'm going to share my whiteboard again, so I can kind of go work on this. Is this cool? Are you guys enjoying this so far? Is this useful for you? Yes or yes? Cool. All right. So I'm going to go back to my whiteboard. It's clear. So once again, where's my draw? 7. Hold on. Let's do it this way. Why am I not seeing my... Pardon me while I figure out why my controls aren't whiteboard. Here we go. All right, so let's do text. 7, 38, 55. 7%. 7% of all communication is verbal or linguistic. 38% is tonal. 55% is your body language, aka kinesic. When you communicate via text, you lose 93%. 93% of your ability to influence, 93% of your ability to be understood is lost. And so what happens is the words that you type are filtered through whatever emotional states the person reading your text is in. Not only that, because the lion's share of your communication has been lost because of the texting, the associations that people connect to the words you use may trigger an emotional response in them that is not good for you. And because they're reading your words in terms of their own emotional state. You guys remember that emotional refractory period we talked about? Yes or no? Right? Because you've sanitized, because of the texting, you've sanitized all of your tonality, you've sanitized all of your body language, everything that you're using right now to understand what I'm saying, 93% of it is gone in a text. So all you're left with is a series of words that may or may not be interpreted the way you intend them to be interpreted. And if they're in a bad mood, that's why back when I was studying internet marketing, one of the first rules they ever taught me was never read email in the morning. Why? Because you're usually cranky in the morning, unless you're one of those weird morning people, right? You're usually cranky. Never read email when you're in a bad mood, because that's going to be filtered through your emotional refractory period. Daywalkers, yeah, right. A lot of times, what happens, especially with chat messages and things like that, people have a very short attention span, and they start to get antsy. And so, if you text them for too long, they get sucked away into something else, either deliberately because they don't want to talk anymore, they don't want to sit there anymore, or they've got other things going on, because most people are trying to multitask. So there's a lot of reasons why people will ghost you. And a lot of it you lose control over the moment you lose that 93%. Okay? One of the fastest ways to keep them on forever is to just echo their words. Use as many of their words in your text message as they've written to you, and then ask questions using those words. And they'll feel understood, and they'll feel very connected, and they'll hang out for much longer. If you stay on too long, they may get bored and distracted or whatever. There's lots of reasons why you can be ghosted. But if you think about what I just talked about, a lot of what the authenticity that you're applying to what I'm talking about is communicated through what I'm doing with my body and my tonality, not just the words. And so, light bulb. I've got the glare off my dome, right, Neil? Okay, cool. Okay, so you guys ready for more? Okay. Type yeah. I only work when I get enough interaction. So if you're in, you got to be interactive with me, or I lose my mojo. All right, cool. So this is how you emotionally bond people to yourself, your product, or your service. Okay, quick question. When someone has a negative experience with yourself or your company, how to influence and to motivate them to do business again? The first thing you want to do, just as a quick sidebar, is you want to inoculate them with that. You lead with it. You say, you know, I realize in the past we had some issues with X, Y, and Z, and I'm fully committed to making sure that you get the best service possible. We completely own it. We screwed up, and we're really, really grateful that you took the time to come back to us. You always lead. One of my mentors, Lisa Sasevich, used to say, "Show them your panties." Now, are any of you familiar with Lisa Sasevich at all? If you're a female entrepreneur, you should really be studying her work, and if you're a male entrepreneur, you should really be studying her work. I make a joke, lovingly, the woman farts money. Okay, I've literally seen her raise $450,000 for eWomen's Network in 20 minutes by showing a video and saying, go donate. She's got a really great system for how to communicate with people from the heart, and for really coming from that heart-centered approach. So if you're someone who doesn't like to sell, who loves what they do but hates to sell, Lisa's got a great system. I learned a tremendous amount from I was one of the few men in her mastermind. And I teach a lot of that in my advanced courses as well. But one of the things that Lisa is very, very good at, Lisa Sasevich, S-A-S-E-V-I-C-H. One of the things that Lisa is very, very good with is creating that sense of vulnerability and authenticity. And the way she does it is she leads with a very personal story. Something that only someone she's very intimate with you would share with. And she does that with the entire audience. She shares her vulnerability with the audience. And when you do that, you trust her. Same thing is true for two reasons. I'll show you from what Lisa's saying, but going back to this whole business idea. When you lead with the thing that's bad, the thing that could be used against you, it can no longer be used against you. There was a study, I think it was done by the University of Minnesota. There were two, actually. One, they wanted to see what would happen, what would the difference in people's opinions and behaviors would be between being when faced with self-disclosure versus discovering something on their from an outside source. So what they did was they set up mock elections. And during these mock elections, the candidate, during one speech, he would confide with the audience that he was a deadbeat dad prior to running for office, that he spent 18 years, he'd been married, he'd had a kid, he didn't pay child support, he was a deadbeat dad. He would lead with that, he would ask for forgiveness, he would say that I'm committed to becoming a better person and helping the world in whatever he did. And then he would do his presentation. And then on a different group, the same candidate would just start giving his presentation, and then one of the plants in the audience would raise their hand and say, hey, didn't I read somewhere you were a deadbeat dad? And he would do his and they would go back and forth, and they did this several times, and they tallied the election results from each of those, the times when the client self-disclosed first versus when it was discovered by a third party. And what they discovered was that when the candidate self-disclosed that potentially damaging piece of information, it no longer counted against him. He got more votes when he self-disclosed than when a third party came up and spilled the beans. They wanted to test this principle again. So what they did now was they took a very attractive woman, they had her sit on a park bench on a college campus, and in her purse was a herpes pamphlet. And she was a very attractive woman, and men would go by and sit by her, and they would calibrate how long it would take a guy to ask her out. And so one guy would come up, she'd sit on the bench next to him, and she would accidentally knock over her purse, and the herpes pamphlet would fall out, and she'd wait for the guy to pick it up. And then another guy would come up, she'd drop over her purse and say, I'm partying, I dropped my herpes pamphlet, could you pick that up for me? And the guy would pick it up. And what they wanted to do, I don't remember right off the top of my head if she asked them out, or if they were asked if they'd go out with her. But the vast majority of people who, when she asked them to and claimed that herpes pamphlet, were willing to go out with her than when they picked it up and handed it to her. So the takeaway is, if there's something that is potentially damaging that could be used against you, build it into the very first part of your introduction to your presentation. In sales and marketing, when I teach people about sales copy and writing copy and things like that, one of the things you want to do is you want to step into the minds of your target and come up in your mind with every objection they could have to your product or service and answer it before they have a chance to ask it. Right? So it's a slight deviation from this same principle. But if you have something that could potentially be used against you, you'll never go wrong leading with it and owning it. Obama made a career out of this. Obama would cop to everything that came up. He would say he's sorry, then he'd go on. Right? So it's a very powerful tool, but it takes a little bit of courage to use it. Logan is asking, any help influencing my kids to follow instructions? Yes, use their words and use hypnotic language. Always give them the illusion of choice. We cover that pretty thoroughly in CPI and Killer Influence. So if you grab one of those special offers, you'll get the exact words you need. But start with using their words. One of the problems that every human being has is they never feel completely understood. And so when you use a person's very own words, it actually forces their neurology to orient on you and pay attention to you. And every word that you use that comes out of their mouth makes them feel more connected to you the longer you talk to them. I recommend you go with their seminars first, but if budgeting is an issue, then get her books. I have everything she's put out. You can see her stuff right there, as a matter of fact. I'm a big fan of Lisa's. I really do believe in what she does. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of things I was already doing right before I went there, and then I found out some little tweaks. But she is probably the best I've seen so far in terms of that authentic presentation, heart-centered approach. How can you get an X-lover to listen to you again? Use their words. It's called the echo technique. We have massive amounts of videos on it on the YouTube channel. The most powerful words any human being can hear are the ones that just came out of their mouth. Period. If you learn no other language technique from me other than echo technique, everywhere you go, people would hang on every word you said because it's the ones that just came out of their mouth. They're the most important words that person can hear at any given moment. Okay? And once they're listening to you, now you can bring to bear all the other techniques that you may know. Okay? I'll tell you a really quick story. One of my associates, TJ Zebel, when he was first came to study, he's been with me 6 years now. First year he was with me, he first learned about the echo technique, and he was seeing this girl at the time, and he learned about the echo technique. He's like, I don't know about that. And so he went to his girlfriend's house, and he goes, I just learned this. He goes up to her and goes, I just learned this most amazing technique. You're gonna love it. But first, before we get into it, tell me about your day. How was your day? And she starts telling him about her day. And every time it was his chance, all he did was echo her words. About 15 minutes into the conversation, she looks at him, she goes, so what was that technique that you were going to tell me about? He goes, I'll get to that in a minute. I'm really having a good conversation. Tell me more about your day. And for another 15 minutes, he would echo everything she said. She said X, he said X. She said Y, she said Y. 30 more minutes, he goes, so when are you going to tell me about this technique that you've been on? We'll get to that. Don't worry about it. 45 minutes goes by. He can't take it anymore. He bursts out laughing. She's like, what? He goes, you remember that technique that I was telling you that I learned, this really cool technique? I'm like, yeah, when are you going to tell me about it? She goes, I've been using it on you for the last 45 minutes. She goes, what? I go, yeah, what? He goes, really? She goes, yeah, really. And she goes, and then he goes to us. So just as an aside, or just for the sake of understanding, how do you feel about the conversation we just had? She goes, you know, I think this is the best conversation we've ever had. Now, this is a woman who knew him for decades. And yet, it went right in. So if you learn nothing but that, if there's really only 3 things that most people need we teach a lot of stuff. But the big one always starts with the echo technique. And then it usually links to 3 magic questions or criteria and values, which is where we're going next. You learn 3 magic questions in CPI, you learn 3 magic questions in killer abilities. But echo technique is where it starts. Human beings cannot resist their own words. In the currency of relationships is attention. The echo technique forces a person to pay attention to you because every word that has come out of your mouth is directly connected to their emotions. There is no possibility of mistranslation, and the longer they talk, the more connected to you they become. Yes, the question is, would echo technique work on text or email as well? It absolutely works in text and email. It works any place where linguistic communication is being utilized. It is amazing. You're welcome. Okay, you guys ready to learn about criterion values? Type it in the chat so I know. Okay, cool. Excellent. All right, so there's really only 2 questions that you need to understand when you're going to elicit a person's criterion values. Those 2 questions are, let me type it, I'm gonna, you know what? How should I do this? You know, let me use my OneNote. New page. Add a page. Okay. What's important about? How do you know? Okay. So I'm going to share this for you, and then we're going to talk about it. Where is it? Nope, that's not it. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. Okay. So first and foremost, can you guys all see the screen okay? So this is question number 1 is the criteria, the emotional bonding question. Okay. So if someone's coming to you and, you know what, maybe it might be better off if I just actually demo this really quick. No. All right. So let's say somebody's coming to you and they want to, maybe you sell real estate, right? And so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to walk up to that person and you're going to say, so pardon me, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, just so I understand you better, you know, houses are a very big decision. They're very important. Buying a house is a very important phase in the person's life. And I'm curious about something. What's important to you about the perfect house? What's important to you about the perfect house? Right? So let me, Alicia, can I play with you? Is it okay? I've never met you before, right?
No.
Okay. So would you mind pretending to be my house buyer?
Yeah, okay.
So there's two questions, we'll get into it in just a minute, but you got to set a context. You got to know your outcome. So the first thing to understand is that when you're going into using this in a sales context, you gotta know that people don't come to you for the house. They come to you for what the house gives them. And they have in their minds a checklist for what constitutes the perfect house. And you need to know what that checklist is. Because every time they check off a box on that checklist, they're going to get a body feeling. They're going to generate a feeling, physically or emotionally. And they're going to put a label on that feeling. So when you ask somebody what's important about the perfect house, they may give you one of two things. They may give you the labels they use to describe the feelings, or they may give you the criteria. In other words, the checklist, like it has to have a big yard, it has to be near a good school, it has to have white picket fences, it has to have a big kitchen. So there's only two questions that you ever really need to ask to drill down. And what you'll notice when I start to work with Alicia is as we start to drill down on this criteria and values process, there's emotions that'll come up. Okay, because that's how it works. So again, we're going to set the context. So my first goal is to find out what is the perfect house and how does she know. So the two questions are going to be what's important about and how do you know. And what you're going to hear me do throughout this entire process is you're going to hear me echo her words, agree with it, feed them back to her, and ask another question. Okay. So Lisa, can I ask you a question just so I understand you better? If you were to think about the perfect house for you,
Yes.
what's important about the perfect house for you?
The kitchens have the stone bench tops and a nice spacious lounge room.
Spacious lunchroom?
Yes, spacious lounge room. A large backyard. And the requirement is have to have 4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms.
And 2 bathrooms. And a double lock-up garage.
Double lock-up garage?
Double lock-up garage.
So just so I understand you better, I'm curious, what's important about a double lock-up garage?
Because like I have a nice car, so I want my car to park in a safe spot. So it's protected under the sun and the weather, especially hail, snow. Yeah, so double lock-up garage is the requirement.
Double lock-up garage. So if you had that double lock-up garage, you know that your nice car would be safe and protected from the sun and the elements and everything else?
Yes.
Okay. You see what just happened? Did you see her facial responses? All I did was give her words back to her as best as I could remember them. So have you? So what? I'm curious. What else? What else is important?
That about it.
That's about it.
That is, yeah.
So let me ask you something. You said kitchen, you want a nice spacious kitchen. And people want spacious kitchens for a lot of different reasons. So if I were to ask you, what's important to you about having that spacious kitchen, what would that be for you?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you clearly then, just a bit static.
So, spacious kitchen, people want spacious kitchens for many different reasons.
Yes.
And one spacious kitchen may be right for one person, but another spacious kitchen may be not right for somebody else. So I'm curious, what's important to you about having that spacious kitchen?
Because the room for the guests and the family come over for dinner, so that is the spacious. Most of the families gathering around, so it's important to me because that spacious area is for my family and my friends to gather around.
Excellent. And when you have that big spacious kitchen with that big spacious area for your guests and your family, I'm curious, what's important about that?
To have the connection and bonding with the family and friends when we have time together. That is like the area that we build connections with the families and friends that we interact with. And that is where, like, to me, is that a bonding area that everyone gathers together around to have a meals or like a party or any special occasions. That would be a main entertainment area for the family and guests.
Excellent, excellent. And you know what? I totally agree. I think family and having a space just for family to connect and bond is one of the most important parts of a house. Just like my wife is Asian, so I know that in Asian families, the kitchen is one of the central places in the house.
True.
Like the heart where everybody comes together and everybody bonds. And most Asian families are pretty big. So
yes.
People to come over. So if I could show you the perfect, I have several houses in mind, and we're going to go through the other process, the other things that you might need as we go through this. My job is not to sell you a house. My job is to find you the home that you're looking for, the place that is spacious and gives you that ability to connect and bond with your family and your friends, that you can feel safe and comfortable in, both for not just for your car, but for your family as well. And so as we go through these, getting to understand you, but I know that sounds a little strange, but if I could find, I have this, and I would start to show you properties basically. And I would notice how, are you guys seeing what she does every time I say the words connect and bond?
I just light up.
In your face? All I'm doing is saying I'm connecting and bonding. I could literally look at her and say, we're going to give you a spacious kitchen, a spacious room for your family and your friends so you can connect and you can bond. See that unconscious head nod?
Yes.
How you know you're starting to get it, right? I don't need to talk about the big backyard. I don't need to talk about the walk-up driveway. I don't need to talk about the public schools. All I need to do is drill down on each of these keywords until I hear words like connection, bond. Those are values. You understand? And when she hears those, she has an emotional response. I don't know if you can see that in the view that you're in. And all I have to do is keep using those words. And then at some point, I'll say, if I could show you a place that had those spacious kitchens and that nice big lunchroom where you could bond with your friends, and that double lock, nice garage that you could keep your car safe and protected from the sun and the elements, and it was in your price range, what would that do for you?
That would be great. That would be greatly appreciated. If if you can show me all that, probably I could get a place. If all that my criteria is meet, and what you can show me that it fit in the criteria, then I consider buying it.
So what would be the next step that we need to take to find that spacious house? I have a few ideas if you're ready to go look.
Go looking for it? Show me.
Tell you right now, I have a few in mind, and I know that one of them's going to be great, but I'm not sure which one. So which one would you like to? I have this one. Which one would you like to see first?
Which one you think that fit me the most in my criteria? Tick all the box. So out of
the second one from the top is the one that I think is going to be the best place to start. It's got a really spacious kitchen. It does have a double lock garage. In fact, I think the garage actually has a second floor to it, so you could actually do something with that. You'd have extra space to store things or whatever. So
awesome.
So we'll start with that one, and then we'll work from there.
Right. Awesome.
So how did you feel about me? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but You know, how did you feel about me when I was giving you your very own words back to you?
Understanding, and you acknowledge what my need is, and you acknowledge what is important to me, and you address what is my concern, and you address what my criteria, and you acknowledge the most important thing is that you acknowledge what I really want out of a house.
Yeah, this is where I see so many people lose it when we do this. I've taught this to a lot of people. I've taught this to realtors, and at this exact moment is when they start going into their pre-canned sales pitch, and you can literally see the lights go off, right? I didn't talk about anything other than spacious kitchens and a double lock garage, and she's ready to go. I could have talked about a large backyard. I could have talked about 4 bedrooms. I could have talked about 2 bathrooms. I could have drilled down to the emotional component behind each one, and it would have added more fuel to the fire. But what she said, guys and gals, is the most important thing. I talked only about what was important to her.
Yes.
Through that extra room in the garage just to see if the lights would go on or off. Because sometimes when you deviate from the exact map they've given you, you kind of start to lose. That was actually a better thing for you because you probably like storage space, right? But, all right, so so she's ready to buy a house. Yes.
Yes. Go.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Elisa. So you guys. You guys follow me? Okay, so think about, there's really only 2 questions. When I asked her what's important about, she gave me a list of criteria. In other words, she said a big spacious kitchen, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, big backyard, double lock garage, right? That's the checklist. So that's how she knows when she's got the perfect house. But that's not the value. The value, the benefit that she's going for, the effect she wants to have is bonding and connection and a space for her family and friends. And so when we drill down to that, price becomes less and less of an issue because it's more and more of the emotional side of it, the emotional fulfillment that we're going for. And if you understand that every human being on the planet works this way, regardless of how logical or linear or fact-oriented they think they are. Every human being has criteria and values checklist and a set of feelings that having that checklist met activates in them. So when you present to them, your job isn't to sell them something. Your job is to find out what they want to buy. That's it. You're not selling them because you don't have to sell them. You find out what they want to buy. If you have the ability to fulfill it, you talk about what you have in the words that they've given you, and the longer you keep them linked to what they want using their words, the more they will tend to do business with you or take the actions that you want by default. Because not doing it goes against their values. Okay? If you deviate from that formula is when you'll start to get objections. You'll start to get people mismatching you or trying to do price objections and things like that. Yeah, there's a lot of people who are starting to understand the power of this. We call it relationship psychology. I call it offer psychology. Your job as a presenter, and this is also true, by the way, in relationships. When a person talks about what's important to them in the right person, it's not just enough to talk about it. You've got to embody it. So if someone says, I want a guy who's, a lady says, I want a guy who's adventurous, who's safe, who's secure, you can't just talk about it. It's one thing to talk about it, but you've got to actually take on that persona and be the embodiment of that. And if for some reason you elicit somebody's criteria or values or checklist and you can't fulfill it, then if you're in integrity, you've got to let them know that. And on the surface, you might think that, well, I'll lose a sale or I'll lose the date if it doesn't match. No, you're saving yourself a hell of a lot of hassle. Because what will happen is if you go through this, let's say you take a business context, if you elicit somebody's values and criteria and what you have isn't a fit for what you're offering, and you tell them that, they'll initially be disappointed, but their respect for you will be astronomical. And what these people tend to do is they will refer people to you hand over fist. And they will look for an opportunity to do business with you again. Sutter's, the how do you know part is often optional, right? Because when I asked what's important about, she gave me the criteria right off, so I didn't have to ask how do you know. Okay, and so you're always going to find out. You're always going to look for the information that's missing. So the best question to start with is what's important about, and then if you need to, you go with the how do you know. Okay, but you got to soften it. Yeah, you got to soften it. So you notice when I was working with Alicia, I was saying like, just so I understand you better. By the way, I'm curious. That softening is what takes it from a interrogation to a conversation. So you've got to, one of the problems with, this comes right out of NLP. The problem with it, and the reason why a lot of people fail with it when they try to use it from a neuro-linguistic perspective is they don't know how to soften it. Because when you just ask the questions directly, it's too invasive. But if you soften it and you ask the questions properly, it will simultaneously deepen rapport while emotionally bonding that person's desires to your product or service or yourself. Yeah, so how do you, let me see what the question is. How do you know what is important? Yeah, the most important question is, I'm gonna put it in the chat. Hold on a second. This is the question you want to use, okay? What is important about? Right? I could say, what's important to you about the perfect guy? What's important to you about the ideal lover? I say, what's important to you about the perfect car? And here's the thing you need to understand about criteria and values. People have criteria and values checklists and emotional labels for everything that they do. Whether it's buying a stick of bubble gum, a house, selecting a mate, ordering food online or at a restaurant, they have emotional desires or lists for everything that they do, even if it's stuff they've never even thought about buying. There will always be a criteria and values checklist. The guy I told you about earlier, the guy who came to Stealth Selling Secrets, he would spend, like, every time we came to the criteria and values section in the event, he would jump up and down, beg to teach, and he would find somebody and he would literally sell them their pen using criteria and values. Most of us don't really think about what's important to us emotionally about a pen. And yet he could do that. He could do that, and it's the same process whether you're selling a $4 million house or a $1.40 pack of chewing gum, right? You just don't have to work quite as hard for the pack of chewing gum, but the process is the same. So again, the key question here, the key processes are A, what's important? First of all, know your outcome. Second is what's important about X, whatever, buying a house, the perfect mate, the ideal car, right? If the information they give you is too vague, the next question you ask is how do you know? When they ask you when they answer the how do you know question, they're going to give you a list of things that you can now drill down on. They'll say what's important about the perfect car? Great gas mileage. Great. You know, it's important for cars to have great gas mileage. So just so I understand you better, what's important to you about a car that has great gas mileage? Well, it's economical. It's not going to cost me too much money to run, to go from home to work every day. I'm not going to go bankrupt taking care of. I'm just so I understand. But what's really important to you? I know this is going to sound weird, but what's really important to you about not going bankrupt, going back and forth to work? Well, money's important to me. Security for my family. I need that money to do other things besides going back and forth to work. I'm not working to work, or paying to go to work. Excellent. I'm going to make sure that you find the exact right car with the perfect gas mileage. It's going to be able to get you back and forth to work so you can spend the minimum amount of money going back and forth to work, and you can use that extra money to take care of your family and give them the security that they're looking for, right? If I was even remotely vague about how they would calibrate good gas mileage, I would say, well, how do you know? How do you know when a car's got good gas mileage? And they might say, well, I know that I can put $20 worth of gas in and it lasts me a week. Boom, now I know exactly what to show them. Do I start showing them the cars that get 10 miles to the gallon? Fuck no, right? When the criteria comes out, it's a literal map of show me this, talk to me about this, make sure it does X, Y, Z, and don't talk to me about anything else. That's literally what the criteria question's about. Trust me though, it doesn't work that way. They will always have something. They'll always have something. I haven't found anyone yet. Now, you may have trouble getting it because they don't trust you. They don't have rapport with you. That's a different issue. But there will always, some people may be a little bit fuzzy at first, because no one's ever asked them that before, which right there puts you in a whole different category of human being. People will often say, because they've never had anybody treat them this way, they'll say, you know, no one's ever, that's a really great question. No one's ever asked me that before. And right away, boom, you framed yourself as being unique and special in their world. Someone who took the time to want to get to know them. And if you're using their words all along, it only magnifies what's going on. And Ann says, my kids talk to me more now. Thanks, you're very welcome. I'm glad to help. What is the best tactic if they say they don't know or resist sharing? And you just go to echoing. You just go to simple echoing. But whatever, here's what I was taught, and I found it to be pretty true. Whatever they tell you is always enough. Whatever they tell you is always enough. As long as you're following the words that came out of their mouth, if they give you shallow level criteria and values, let's say there's 3 levels to criteria, going down to the deepest level of emotion, but they only give you that first level. That's enough. Just keep doing it. The only variable will be time. The more they hear their words coming back to them, the more deeply connected and focused on your presentation they'll become. The deeper they'll go. Okay? But don't believe me. Go out, find human beings in their natural habitat or virtually, and use it. Start with echoing their words. Get your state right. Use their words. Ask them a question about something and ask them what's important about it or how they know when they've got it. That's the fork in the road. And you're just going to cycle between those 2 questions. And when you feel like you've got enough and you start to see emotion on their face or those unconscious head nods, start talking to them about those things, using their words, and link them to what you want them to do. Right? We go very, very in depth in Killer Influence and CPI. So if you have those videos, you can reference those. We do have 1 or 2 of them floating around on YouTube that you can access. Otherwise, just grab that webinar package and you'll get a lot of training on that. So that being said, just as a review, going back to what that whole offer thing is. So once again, the Killer Influence webinar, a special offer is the 17 video Killer Influence home study course. It also comes with a 200-page manual valued at $1,297. You'll get the Speed Attraction, Rapid Attraction Secrets program valued at $1,497. You get the Energy Hypnosis Speed Healing program valued at $97. The Stealth Selling Secrets CPI extension and expansion valued at $297. You get the Anchors in Action crash course, which I think is really, really useful for those of you who need state control on demand and things like that. And then you're going to get the 4+1 day Killer Influence Live Covert Hypnosis certification valued at $1,997. And you'll get that free bonus day I talked about, which makes it a 5-day event. But that 5th day will only be for the select few, the first 35 who actually jump on this program today. And you can do that in 1 low installment. It's a $5,282 value. You can get it all for 1 low price of $997 or 3 easy payments of $399. And that ticket does not expire. You have it until you use it. So if you can't make it to us in July, next time we do Killer Influence, you can trade that ticket in and come to the front row seat to the live event and get the hands-on training that we are so famous for. We do 3 times more hands-on training than any other trainer, NLP trainer or hypnotist trainer in the industry. That has allowed us to create practitioners who are extremely competent and confident, able to hypnotize and do these things anytime, anywhere, under any circumstances. And if that's something that you think might help you, I highly invite you to come out and join us for that Killer Influence live event. Let me go ahead and look at what's going on in the chat. What Craig is asking, what is the best tactic if they say they don't know or resist sharing? Again, I just said that. Okay. My kids talking more now? Yep, very cool. All right. Before I turn you guys loose, do you guys have any other questions that I can answer for you? Can we put that link back in the chat, guys, just so for people who are last minute? And do you guys have any other questions that I can answer for you? Thank you, Merrick. And again, I apologize for the you'll actually get a call. You'll actually get an email and a call from Stephanie. She'll let you know that you qualified. Third pillar was actually there's three magic, not three magic questions, but there's three language patterns that we teach that are cause and effect, complex equivalence, and awareness. You're welcome, Mark. Mark's one of our platinum members. Yes, John, we can swap out Unlimited Lover for one of them. You can swap it out if you want to. If you have speed attraction already, then Unlimited Lover would be the next step for you for that. Merrick, if you want to swap events out, reach out to Stephanie directly. She's handling all of that. We've had a lot of changes coming up in terms of the Australian scheduling. So Stephanie can help you with that, absolutely. All right. I don't see a problem with that. Reach out to Stephanie, iPhone. I got your message. Reach out to Stephanie privately, and she'll let you know how to move forward on that. Why do you guys are messaging me privately, and that's cool. I thank you for that. Seth, you're very welcome, brother. It's always good to see you. Francine, thank you. All right. All right, let me go back to Brady Bunch mode. All right, well, I hope you guys had a good time. Like I said, I'm here for any questions that you may have. I'll send on for another 5 or 10 minutes. But if not, then we'll cut it. We'll cut it. There will be a replay. I don't know what the quality of the replay will be. How many video different platforms we're going to have to splice together for that. But for those of you who did make it on, because apparently we more than exceeded Zoom's 100 participant limit. So I could actually say this was a sold out event. Let's see here. If I can't recall a time when I felt totally awesome, where should I start? That's a very good question, CJ. And I ran into this a lot initially when I was working with a lot of trauma patients. So one of the things we do in trauma work is we have this thing we call the safe place induction. And so here's how it works. Many times people who grew up in a very traumatic childhood never felt safe. And so you don't ask them to remember a time when they felt a certain way. You ask them a different question. You say, if you could imagine a place that was so X, so Y, so Z. So let's say I'm doing safety, for example. If you could imagine a place of absolute safety, a place that was so nurturing and so nourishing and so forgiving and so protecting, so safe in every conceivable way, that no negativity of any kind could exist there for even a fraction of a second without being immediately vaporized or turned into its opposite. Can you imagine what a place like that might be like? And notice what I said there. Imagine what it might be like. Which means it doesn't have to be right. And 99.99% of the people that I asked that question to can do that. They can't remember a time when they felt safe or when they felt a certain way, but they can imagine what a place like that might be like. And so what you do is when you begin to create that imagined experience, you ask yourself, you do what we call cortical activation. You ask, well, what might you see in that amazing place? What might you hear? What might you smell? What might you taste? And when you're in that place, when you see what you see and you hear what you hear and you smell and you taste what you smell and you taste, there's a wonderful feeling that you get. A feeling that lets you know you're really safe. And there's a place in your body where that feeling starts. where it grows, where it spreads from. Point to where you feel it. They're going to point to where they feel it. Now, if there were a color connected to that feeling, what color or colors would that be for you? First impression. Now you do exactly what we did at the beginning of today's exercise. Imagine a big ball of that energy floating above your head. Notice how the feelings in your body shift and change with every breath you take and every beat of your heart. That ball of energy begins to grow, begins to expand, begins to fill the entire room from floor to ceiling, from wall to wall, and all points in between. Notice how it wraps itself around you like an amazing blanket of safety. A cocoon, a shield, a suit of armor, insulating, protecting you from all threats, real or imagined, at the same time flooding your mind, flooding your body, flooding your spirit with everything it most needs and wants. When you know you've got that, breathe that color through your entire being. Now, what's interesting is that when most people, and if they do this standing, especially when they breathe that color through their entire being, their posture will go into the safe faith, the safe posture. It'll kind of do that automatically, but the color and the breathing will integrate and it will change your state. So that process, if you just take the word safety out and you plug in charismatic, playful, curious, it's the exact same mechanism. It's the same mechanics. And you can, when I felt playful and mischievous, those feelings will come up. Breathe it through the body's configuration will start to change, and you're in the state. Now you have something to practice. Does that help? Cause and effect, complex equivalence, and awareness. The most powerful hypnotic language pattern that exists besides the echo technique is the awareness language pattern. We'll teach you all about that in Killer Influence. You'll learn it hands backwards and forwards. We'll install that stuff in you. It'll be coming out of you like water out of a faucet. Neil says, you're very welcome, Neil. Thank you so much for coming, for bearing with us. It's been awesome. So this has been an adventure. It's been an amazingly eventful day. So I hope people, by the way, just go out into the world and echo people and try to get caught. And notice what happens. Don't be surprised. Oh, by the way, when you do this on waiters and waitresses, people who have to serve you, be very respectful, because they will connect with you so deeply they will forget all the other customers and they'll get in trouble. So be aware of that. But go out and try to get caught and notice what happens instead. Okay? All right, you guys rocked. Let's have that link one last time. I hope we maxed out the 35. I have no idea how many of you are coming to see me in July, but I hope a bunch of you. All right, you guys did great. God bless. We'll talk to you soon.